She falsely accused my brother without realizing my brother passed away 8 years ago. So, here's the deal. I'm Maya, 22 years old, and I'm a triplet. Well, I guess I was a triplet. One of my brothers, Adam, died when we were 14. It's been a long time, but even after all these years, I just can't bring myself to say, I only have one brother. Like, it feels wrong. I mean, we grew up together as three, you know? Just because one of us isn't here anymore doesn't mean he's erased from my life. Anyway, the thing is, I started this new job 3 months ago. It's at a small clinic, and for the most part, I like the people I work with. Everyone's nice enough, but I haven't exactly become best friends with anyone. You know how it is when you're new. It takes time to get close to people. So, one day during lunch, some of the coworkers were just chatting, and the conversation moved to siblings. They asked me how many I had. Now, I've been through this scenario 100 times, and I always do the same thing. I just say, I'm a triplet, I have 2 brothers. It's easier that way, and honestly, I'm not trying to trauma dump on people I barely know. Like, what am I supposed to do? Drop the fact that one of my brothers died when I was 14 and make everyone super uncomfortable? I'd rather not. No one batted an eye at my answer. They probably just thought it was a fun fact or whatever, and I didn't feel the need to explain further. It was all cool until about a week later when my brother Dylan came to pick me up from work because my car was in the shop. That's when everything went sideways. So, we're walking out of the building, and one of my coworkers, Sarah, catches a glimpse of Dylan. And you know, my brother's a good-looking guy, so I wasn't surprised when she was like, "Oh my God, Maya, is that your brother? He's so cute. You have to set me up with him." I laughed it off at first and was like, "Nah, he's got a girlfriend." I thought that'd be the end of it. But no, she kept pushing, asking me all these questions about him. And then, this is where it gets really awkward. She goes, "What about your other brother? Is he single?" Now at this point, I'm stuck. Because the other brother she's talking about is Adam, and I'm not about to explain that he's, not around anymore. So I just kind of panicked and said, he's not available either. Technically, I didn't lie, but it felt weird as hell. She dropped it after that, and I thought I was in the clear, but oh my God, was I wrong. Fast forward a few days and I start hearing some whispers. Nothing major at first, just a couple of my coworkers talking quietly when I walked by, but you know when you can feel people talking about you? Yeah, it was that vibe. I ignored it at first because I hate confrontation and figured it was probably nothing. Boy, was I wrong. One day during lunch, I overhear Sarah and a couple of her friends, Chloe and Emily, talking about me, and they're not even being subtle. They're full-on gossiping about how I didn't set Sarah up with my other brother because, get this, he's single on Instagram. Now at this point, I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell is she talking about? Adam never even had Instagram. Hell, he wasn't around when Instagram became a thing. So clearly she's confusing him with someone else. My best guess is that she saw one of my cousins, who shares our last name and is in a few pictures with me and Dylan, and assumed he was the third triplet. Whatever, right? I figured it was just a dumb mix-up and moved on. That is, until it got way worse. The next day, I'm minding my own business at work, when 2 coworkers, people I don't even know that well, come up to me looking all serious. They ask, "Hey Maya, what's going on with your brother?" I'm super confused and just say, what do you mean?" And they go, "We heard that the reason you didn't set Sarah up with him is because there's some stuff from college, like allegations or something." I'm just sitting there, staring at them like they've lost their minds. Allegations? College? Adam never even went to college because, he died at 14. I tell them there must be some mistake, and they look at each other like they don't believe me. One of them says, "Well, Sarah said she heard from someone who went to your college that your brother had some issues." At this point, I'm freaking out. I can feel my heart racing, but I try to stay calm. I tell them, look, that's impossible. My brother passed away when we were 14. And do you think they believed me? Nope. They called Sarah over and all 3 of them just start accusing me of lying. It was insane. I had to pull out my phone, show them pictures from Adam's funeral, photos of me and Dylan at his grave, even pictures of us holding his photo at our graduation. It was humiliating. But instead of apologizing, they started saying that I was still lying because I didn't mention Adam was dead when they first asked. Like, how does that even make sense? I'm a liar for not wanting to talk about my dead brother during small talk? It was like a nightmare. Sarah made this huge deal about how I was being shady for not telling everyone up front that Adam had passed, and Chloe and Emily just ate it all up. They started whispering about me even more after that. The entire office vibe shifted. People were giving me weird looks, and I could feel the tension every time I walked by. It was like I had become some villain in this twisted story that Sarah was spinning. The worst part? No one seemed to care that Sarah had made up this horrific rumor about my brother. All they focused on was the fact that I hadn't told them Adam was gone. Like, that was the crime, not the fact that Sarah had lied about something so serious. I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect this. I felt trapped. I couldn't go back and change how I'd answered the sibling question, and even if I did, would it have made a difference? I doubt it. Anyway, that's where things were at. I'm still reeling from how fast everything spiraled out of control, and honestly, I have no idea how to fix it. How? So things didn't exactly calm down after the whole blow-up about my brother. In fact, they got worse. Way worse. It's like Sarah couldn't let it go. I thought after I showed those pictures, she'd back off and maybe even apologize, but nope. She doubled down, and somehow, it felt like half the office was starting to buy into her nonsense. It started with little things, like people avoiding me or whispering when I walked into the break room. You know that feeling when you know people are talking about you, but when you ask, they just pretend everything's fine? That was basically my life every day at work now. It was like everyone became weirdly suspicious of me for no reason. It was frustrating as hell. Then one day, a few coworkers pulled me aside and asked, "Is everything okay at home? You seem, I don't know, like something's off." I didn't even know how to respond. What the hell did they mean by off? I told them I was fine, just dealing with personal stuff, and tried to brush it off, but I could see it in their faces. They didn't believe me. A couple of days after that, things escalated. I overheard Sarah talking to Chloe and Emily again. But this time, she wasn't just whispering. She was straight up trashing me, saying how I'd been lying to everyone from the start. She even hinted that my family had some dark secrets, and that I was covering for them. Like, what the hell does that even mean? Then Sarah dropped this bomb. She told them she had proof that my brother Adam had been a bad guy in high school. Yeah, she actually said that. I couldn't believe my ears. Proof? From where? How could anyone have proof about something that didn't even happen? It hit me like a brick. Sarah wasn't just gossiping anymore. She was actively creating lies about my brother to make herself look right. I felt sick to my stomach. I wanted to scream, to tell her to shut the hell up, but instead I froze. I didn't know what to do. If I confronted her, she'd just twist it around like she always did, and suddenly I'd be the bad guy. But things didn't stop there. Oh no, Sarah wasn't done yet. The next day I came into work and noticed this really weird vibe in the office. People were straight up staring at me like I had two heads. I didn't understand what was going on, but I was too anxious to ask. Then, during lunch, one of my coworkers, Nina, pulled me aside. She's one of the few people who'd been decent to me through all of this. She looked super uncomfortable, like she didn't want to be the one telling me this, but eventually she blurted it out. So, Sarah's been saying stuff about you and your family, like that your brother might have done something really bad in high school. She said she heard from someone who went to school with him. I swear my brain short-circuited for a second. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. This wasn't just petty gossip anymore. Sarah was full-on slandering my dead brother, and people were actually believing her. I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I asked Nina for more details, but she was hesitant. All she would say was that Sarah had apparently gotten in touch with someone who claimed to know Adam, and this mysterious person had told Sarah all this crap about him. Nina looked genuinely uncomfortable, and I could tell she didn't fully believe Sarah. But the fact that this was even a conversation was blowing my mind. "Who's this person?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Nina shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "I don't know." Sarah didn't say exactly, she just said she had sources. Sources? Really? What is this, a crime investigation? I was so pissed off at this point I could barely think straight. How could someone go so far to make me look bad? And why? Because I didn't want to set her up with Dylan? It made no sense. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. Reporting her to HR seemed like the logical step, but we didn't have a formal HR department since we were such a small clinic. The best I could do was talk to Jenna, the admin manager, again. I'd already talked to her once about the situation, but I didn't know if she'd take it seriously this time. It felt like Sarah was manipulating the whole office into thinking I was some sketchy liar, and no one was on my side. Still, I had no choice but to try. So after lunch, I went to Jenna's office and laid everything out. I told her what Sarah had been saying, how she was accusing my dead brother of stuff that never happened, and how people were starting to believe her. I felt so frustrated I could barely hold back tears. Jenna looked shocked and sympathetic, but she didn't exactly know what to do either. She promised she'd talk to Sarah and see if there was any truth to the rumors. That's when I realized how deep I was in this mess. Even Jenna didn't fully believe me. She was being careful, trying not to take sides too quickly, but that only made me feel worse. If I couldn't even get my own manager to see how crazy this situation was, how was I going to stop Sarah from spreading more lies? After the meeting, I went back to my desk, trying to keep my head down and stay out of sight. But every time I glanced up, I caught someone staring at me or whispering to their neighbor. The paranoia was real. I felt like I was trapped in some horrible nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. That night, I got a call from Dylan's girlfriend, Emma. She sounded freaked out, asking me if I'd seen the messages Sarah sent her on Instagram. I hadn't. Apparently, Sarah had found Emma on social media and sent her this insane message about me. She claimed that I'd been lying about everything, about Adam, about our family, about Dylan, and that I was trying to manipulate Emma into staying with Dylan. According to Sarah, I was some kind of master manipulator who'd been hiding a third brother all this time, covering up some huge family scandal. Emma was furious, but not at me, at Sarah. She didn't believe a word of it, but she thought I should know what was going on. I couldn't believe it. Sarah had gone beyond work drama and was now targeting my personal life, spreading lies to people outside of work. It was like she was on a mission to destroy everything about me, and I had no idea why. By the time I hung up the phone with Emma, I felt completely defeated. I couldn't escape Sarah's lies, no matter where I turned. I was being iced out at work, rumors were flying, and now she was trying to mess with my family and relationships. I felt like I was losing control of my own life, and no matter what I did, I couldn't stop it. Update 1. So at this point, I thought things couldn't get worse. Sarah had already spread enough lies at work, and now she was trying to mess with my personal life by dragging Emma into it. I was so mad and stressed that I wasn't even sleeping properly anymore. Every day I was dreading going to work, not knowing what new rumor Sarah would come up with next. But honestly, I wasn't prepared for what came next. It was a Friday morning when things really escalated. I had just walked into the office and I noticed right away that people were being super weird, even more than usual, like people were straight up avoiding me. I saw a group of my coworkers, including Chloe and Emily, gathered around Sarah's desk, and the second I walked by, they went dead silent and gave me these side-eye looks. You know when you can just feel that something's wrong? Yeah, it was like that. I tried to ignore it and went about my morning, but as soon as I sat down at my desk, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, and it was a message from a blocked number. My heart started racing because I already had a bad feeling about it. I opened it, and the message was short but freaky as hell. "Stop lying, we know the truth." I felt this chill run down my spine. Who the hell was sending me this? I had no idea if it was Sarah or one of her minions, but it was clear that someone was taking things way too far. I tried to shake it off and get to work, but then my phone buzzed again. Another message, this time with a picture. It was a picture of my house. My mind was racing. How did they get a picture of my house? And why? Was this some kind of threat? I felt like I couldn't breathe for a minute. My hands were shaking and I honestly didn't know what to do. Should I report it? Should I confront Sarah? Was this even connected to her? Or was something else going on? I didn't have any answers, but I knew one thing for sure. This had gone beyond some petty workplace drama. I spent the whole day at work trying to keep my cool, but my anxiety was through the roof. I couldn't concentrate on anything because all I could think about was that message. Every time I looked up, I caught Sarah or one of her little groupies staring at me, smirking like they knew something I didn't. It made me sick to my stomach. Were they involved in this? Did they think this was some kind of joke? When the day finally ended, I rushed home as fast as I could. My mind was racing the whole drive, and when I got home, I immediately called my brother Dylan. I told him about the messages, and he was pissed. He was ready to march into my office and confront Sarah himself, but I told him not to. The last thing I needed was for things to get even messier. But Dylan wasn't having it. He insisted we go to the police, and honestly, he was right. This was getting out of hand, and I needed to do something before it got worse. So we went to the local police station that night and filed a report. The officer we spoke to took it seriously, especially when I showed him the picture of my house. They said they'd investigate, but they couldn't promise anything right away. I left the station feeling a little bit better, but still on edge. I mean, what if it was Sarah or one of her friends? What if they decided to do something even worse? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The next couple of days were quiet. I didn't get any more weird messages, and for a second, I thought maybe things were finally calming down. But of course, I was wrong. Monday morning rolls around, and I'm back at work, trying to keep my head down and just get through the day. Everything seems normal at first, but then, around lunchtime, Jenna, our admin manager, calls me into her office. I immediately get this sinking feeling in my gut because I know it's not going to be good. I walk in, and Jenna's sitting there with this serious look on her face. She doesn't even offer me a seat, which is already a bad sign. She gets straight to the point. "Maya, I need to talk to you about something that's come up." I nod, already bracing myself. She continues, "I've been getting some complaints from several of your coworkers. They've expressed concerns about your behavior lately. They feel like you're hiding something. I was floored. My behavior? Hiding something? I knew exactly where this was coming from. It was Sarah. It had to be. I told Jenna everything. About the rumors Sarah had been spreading, the picture of my house, the messages. I laid it all out there, hoping she'd finally see the full picture. But Jenna's expression didn't change. She just sat there, listening, and when I was done, she said, "I understand this has been difficult for you, but we need to address the concerns from your coworkers. I'll look into the messages and the photo, but in the meantime, I need you to focus on maintaining a positive environment at work." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like she was telling me to just suck it up and pretend everything was fine. I tried to argue, but it was clear that Jenna wasn't going to do much more than look into it. I left her office feeling defeated. How could this be happening? I was the one being harassed, but somehow I was the one being told to keep things positive. It felt like I was being punished for standing up for myself. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Later that day, I got another message from that blocked number. This time it was a video. My heart was pounding as I opened it, and when I saw what it was, I nearly dropped my phone. The video was a shaky, grainy recording of me, at my house. It had clearly been filmed through a window. I could see myself in my living room, just going about my day, completely unaware that someone was watching me. I felt like I was going to be sick. Whoever this was, they weren't just messing with me. They were stalking me, watching me. I was terrified. I immediately called Dylan, and he rushed over to my place. We watched the video together, and he was just as freaked out as I was. He wanted to call the police again, but I knew there wasn't much they could do with just a video. I was officially scared for my life. Whoever this was, they were getting bolder, and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't keep living like this, constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next creepy message or video. That night, I packed a bag and stayed at Dylan's place. I didn't feel safe in my own home anymore, and I wasn't about to stick around and find out what this person would do next. I didn't know how long I could keep living like this, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just about work drama anymore. This was personal. Still, I had no choice but to try. So after lunch, I went to Jenna's office and laid everything out. I told her what Sarah had been saying, how she was accusing my dead brother of stuff that never happened, and how people were starting to believe her. I felt so frustrated I could barely hold back tears. Jenna looked shocked and sympathetic, but she didn't exactly know what to do either. She promised she'd talk to Sarah and see if there was any truth to the rumors. That's when I realized how deep I was in this mess. Even Jenna didn't fully believe me. She was being careful, trying not to take sides too quickly, but that only made me feel worse. If I couldn't even get my own manager to see how crazy this situation was, how was I going to stop Sarah from spreading more lies? After the meeting, I went back to my desk, trying to keep my head down and stay out of sight. But every time I glanced up, I caught someone staring at me or whispering to their neighbor. The paranoia was real. I felt like I was trapped in some horrible nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. That night, I got a call from Dylan's girlfriend, Emma. She sounded freaked out, asking me if I'd seen the messages Sarah sent her on Instagram. I hadn't. Apparently, Sarah had found Emma on social media and sent her this insane message about me. She claimed that I'd been lying about everything, about Adam, about our family, about Dylan, and that I was trying to manipulate Emma into staying with Dylan. According to Sarah, I was some kind of master manipulator who'd been hiding a third brother all this time, covering up some huge family scandal. Emma was furious, but not at me, at Sarah. She didn't believe a word of it, but she thought I should know what was going on. I couldn't believe it. Sarah had gone beyond work drama and was now targeting my personal life, spreading lies to people outside of work. It was like she was on a mission to destroy everything about me, and I had no idea why. By the time I hung up the phone with Emma, I felt completely defeated. I couldn't escape Sarah's lies, no matter where I turned. I was being iced out at work, rumors were flying, and now she was trying to mess with my family and relationships. I felt like I was losing control of my own life, and no matter what I did, I couldn't stop it. We took the footage straight to the police station. I was shaking the whole time. I mean, what was Chloe's endgame here? Why was she doing this? The officer we talked to took the footage seriously, especially since Chloe's face was somewhat visible in the video. They promised to investigate and bring her in for questioning. After filing the report, I felt a weird mix of relief and fear. On one hand, we finally had proof that someone was stalking me. On the other hand, I didn't know what Chloe was capable of. Would she try something worse now that she knew we were onto her? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything that had happened over the past few weeks. The rumors, the stalking, the messages, and I couldn't believe it had all led to this. I mean, I never would have guessed Chloe would be the one behind it all. The next day at work was tense. I didn't know if Chloe had been brought in by the police yet, and I was too scared to ask anyone about it. I tried to avoid her and Sarah as much as possible, but the office felt like it was suffocating me. Every time I walked past Chloe's desk, I could feel her eyes on me, like she was waiting for something. Then, right before lunch, Jenna, the admin manager, called Chloe into her office. My heart started pounding because I knew this was it. The police must have contacted Jenna about the footage. I sat at my desk, trying to focus, but I couldn't stop thinking about what was happening behind that closed door. When Chloe came out of Jenna's office about 30 minutes later, her face was pale, and she was visibly shaken. She grabbed her stuff and left the office without saying a word to anyone. I wanted to feel relieved, but I couldn't. I didn't know if this was over or if it was just the beginning of something worse. A few hours later, I got a call from the police. They told me that Chloe had been brought in for questioning, and she admitted to taking the photos and sending some of the messages. She claimed it was all just a prank, and that she didn't mean for it to go this far. A prank, like stalking me and sending threatening messages, was something to laugh about. The police didn't think it was funny either. They charged her with harassment and stalking, and she was released on bail. But the officer I spoke to warned me to stay cautious, just in case. I didn't know what to think. Part of me was relieved that they had caught her, but another part of me was terrified that this wasn't really over. Chloe was still out there, and even though she'd been charged, I didn't feel safe. For now, I'm staying at Dylan's place, keeping a low profile, and trying to figure out what to do next. I don't know if Sarah had any part in this or if it was all Chloe, but I'm not taking any chances. This whole situation has made me question everything: my job, my friendships, even my own safety. I just want to feel normal again, but I don't know when that'll happen, or if it ever will. Update 3. I thought things would finally calm down after Chloe got charged. I mean, they caught the person who was stalking me, right? It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders, but I wasn't exactly at peace yet. There were still too many loose ends. Like, was Chloe really doing all of this alone? Or was Sarah involved too? And even though Chloe admitted to the harassment, her whole "it was just a prank" excuse didn't sit right with me. You don't prank people by stalking them, taking photos of their house and sending creepy messages. It had been a week since Chloe got arrested, and I was back to staying at my own place. It still didn't feel quite right though. I'd find myself double-checking that the doors were locked at night and getting up to look out the window if I heard even the smallest noise. It was like I couldn't relax, always waiting for something bad to happen. Then one day at work, something did happen. I had been avoiding Sarah and her little group ever since Chloe got caught. And to be honest, they had been pretty quiet too. Like, I'd see them in the break room or around the office, but no one said a word to me. I guess everyone was trying to keep things as normal as possible, but it was clear something had shifted. The tension was still there, but now it was more like the calm before a storm. It was a Monday afternoon when Jenna, the admin manager, called a mandatory staff meeting. We all gathered in the break room, and she stood in front of everyone, looking all serious. "I want to address the situation that's been affecting our workplace," she started, and my stomach dropped. I wasn't sure if she was going to talk about Chloe or something else, but I knew it wasn't going to be good. Jenna went on to explain that, after reviewing everything that had happened, including the footage we turned in and the complaints made by various staff, there was going to be some disciplinary action taken. My heart was racing. Was Sarah finally going to get what she deserved? I glanced over at her, but she was sitting there, arms crossed, with a smug look on her face, and then Jenna dropped the news. "We've made the difficult decision to terminate Chloe's employment, effective immediately." A murmur spread across the room. I wasn't surprised, but at the same time, I couldn't shake this feeling that something wasn't right. Chloe had been the one caught on camera. Yeah, but what about Sarah? What about all the rumors she had started? It didn't make sense to me that she was getting off scot-free while Chloe took the fall for everything. I couldn't help myself. I spoke up. "What about Sarah?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "She was the one spreading all the lies in the first place." Jenna looked uncomfortable, like she didn't really want to deal with this right now. "Maya, we've addressed your concerns, but there's no solid evidence connecting Sarah to the harassment. Unless more comes to light, there's not much we can do." I couldn't believe it. Sarah was just going to walk away from this like nothing happened? After everything she'd done to me? I felt my blood boiling, but I knew there was nothing I could do at that moment. I had no choice but to sit back down and bite my tongue. After the meeting, I was fuming. I wanted to march over to Sarah and demand answers, but I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. Instead, I went back to my desk, trying to focus on my work, but my mind kept racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this. Chloe might have been the one caught, but Sarah was the one who started all of this. There had to be something I was missing. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get weirder, I got an email. It was from an anonymous address, and at first I thought it was spam or something, but when I opened it, I froze. The email was short, only a few sentences, but it was enough to make my heart race all over again. You don't know the whole story. Chloe wasn't acting alone. Be careful who you trust. I stared at the screen, my mind spinning. Was this some kind of sick joke? Or was someone else really involved? I didn't know what to think. My first instinct was to show it to Dylan, but I didn't want to freak him out even more than he already was. I decided to sit on it for a bit, trying to figure out what to do next. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the email. Who sent it? And more importantly, why? It didn't make sense that Chloe would be acting on her own, especially considering how close she was to Sarah. But I had no proof, and without it, there was nothing I could do. The next day at work, I was on edge, constantly checking my email and looking over my shoulder. And then, during my lunch break, something happened that changed everything. I was sitting at my desk when Sarah came over. Yes, Sarah. She never talked to me directly, so I was already suspicious. She leaned against my desk and gave me this weird smile like she knew something I didn't. Hey Maya, she said in this fake sweet voice that made my skin crawl. I just wanted to say, no hard feelings, okay? I know things have been tense lately. I stared at her, not sure where this was going. Sure, I mumbled, not really wanting to engage. But she wasn't done. You know, it's funny how things turned out with Chloe, she continued, her smile growing. She always was a little too eager to help. My stomach dropped. Was she admitting something? Was she trying to tell me that Chloe wasn't the mastermind behind all of this after all? I didn't know what to say, so I just stayed quiet. Sarah leaned in a little closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. I guess it's a good thing that some people know when to keep their mouths shut. Don't you think? That was it. That was the confirmation I needed. Sarah had been involved all along. She might not have been the one caught on camera, but she had been pulling the strings the whole time. I wanted to call her out, scream at her, but I knew that wouldn't help. Instead, I just nodded, pretending like I didn't understand what she was saying. But inside, I was seething. As soon as she walked away, I knew what I had to do. I went straight to Jenna and told her everything. I showed her the email, explained what Sarah had said, and made it clear that this wasn't over. Jenna seemed taken aback, but she promised to look into it. Whether she actually would or not, I didn't know. But one thing was for sure. I wasn't going to let Sarah get away with this. I wasn't about to let Sarah get away with this. After her little no hard feelings stunt at my desk, I knew she was involved in everything, but she was still playing mind games, acting like she wasn't scared of being caught. The thing that kept bugging me was how she seemed so confident, like no one would believe me even if I told the truth. So, the day after I talked to Jenna, I decided I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof that Sarah was behind it all. My plan was simple: bait her into slipping up. It wasn't like she was trying too hard to hide it anyway. I started by acting casual, going out of my way to say hi to Sarah when I saw her in the office. It was weird, and I could tell it threw her off a little. She gave me these fake smiles and quick nods, but didn't stick around to talk. It was obvious she thought she had won, but I was just getting started. That afternoon, I overheard Sarah talking to Chloe on the phone. Yeah, she was still in contact with her even after Chloe got fired. I couldn't hear much, but I caught enough to know that Chloe wasn't taking the fall alone. Sarah was saying stuff like, "Don't worry, they won't find anything. And you did what you had to do." That was all I needed to hear. I decided it was time to make my move. The next day, I set things up so I'd run into Sarah outside the office during lunch. I told her I wanted to clear the air and act like I was over all the drama. She took the bait, of course. She thought I was giving in, trying to smooth things over. We went to this little cafe around the corner, and I started asking her casual questions about everything that had happened, acting like I was curious about how Chloe ended up taking all the blame. And then it happened. Sarah let her guard down. She started talking too much, explaining how she didn't want things to go that far, but Chloe was too dumb to follow instructions. My heart was racing, but I played it cool, nodding along like I understood. Sarah rambled on about how she was just trying to teach me a lesson for making her look bad at work, but Chloe messed everything up by taking it too far. She even admitted that she was the one who had sent those first few anonymous messages, trying to scare me into quitting. The whole time, I was recording her on my phone, hidden in my bag. When I got home that night, I played the recording over and over, making sure I had everything. It was all there: her confession, her lies, and how she manipulated Chloe into doing her dirty work. I felt a mix of relief and anger. Sarah was finally caught, but I was furious that it had taken this long and so much stress to get to this point. The next morning, I took the recording straight to Jenna. She listened, her face going pale as Sarah's voice spilled out, confessing to everything. By the time the recording ended, Jenna looked like she didn't know what to say. She promised me that Sarah would be dealt with, and this time, I actually believed her. Within hours, Sarah was called into Jenna's office. I didn't hear exactly what happened, but when Sarah left the building that day, it was with a box of her things, escorted by security. It felt like a weight had been lifted. After all the lies, the rumors, and the stalking, Sarah was finally gone. Chloe might have started it, but Sarah had been the mastermind, and now she was out of my life for good. Looking back, I still can't believe how far things went all over something so stupid. But one thing's for sure, I've learned to trust my gut and never let people like Sarah get the best of me again. That's the end of it. I'm finally free from all the drama,